Hello. Is everything working now? Can you see me and hear me without it being all weird and stuttery? Because I restarted my router and I think we should be good now. But I'm gonna wait. Okay, no one's here. I'm gonna wait for people to find this. Hi Blue. There you are. Hi Henry. Okay, I don't know why it's saying like 0 viewers right now, but I'm getting your messages, so that's good. Um, yeah. I don't know. When did I start lagging? Should I just reread starting from the top of page 134? Does that sound good? Okay, awesome. But he had always known to restrain himself, and he did his best to dispel his own unhappiness. Until late autumn of that year, when a group from Yuan Manor traveled to the northern frontier to refine armor on the Emperor's orders. Yue Chunqing was still young and only wanted to play. Despite a strict warning from his father not to stray out of sight, he often snuck away to explore the wilderness. He didn't care that the northern frontier was the border between Chonghua and the Liao Kingdom, a place with many hidden dangers. On one such day, Yue Chunqing didn't return to their camp. Yue Juntian was frantic with fear that the Liao Kingdom had captured his son, and ordered their whole party to search for him, Zhang Yexue and Murong Chuyi included. So basically, they've had to have multiple search parties for Yue Chunqing. Do you remember what happened back then? Zhang Yexue asked. The glow of the pool in Huntian Cave cast its bloody light over both his and Yue Chunqing's face. You were so headstrong and willful back then because everyone coddled you. Blissfully ignorant, childishly conceited, doing whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. We checked all the most dangerous places on the northern frontier, but we couldn't find a trace of you. He tilted Yue Chunqing's chin up and continued darkly. In the end, I used one of my own devices to figure out where you'd ended up. Yue Chunqing looked dazed. His gaze was vacant. It was unclear how many of Zhang Yexue's words he had heard. But Zhang Yexue didn't seem to care whether Yue Chunqing was listening. These secrets had been trapped in his heart all these years, and now that he was finally giving them voice, he likely wouldn't have cared if Yue Chunqing were deaf or blind or dead. I tracked you down, only to discover you'd made it past Chonghua's border barrier and into Liao Kingdom territory. You were in dire straits when I found you, much like you are right now. The King of Liao had been conducting transmogrification experiments at the border. There were large numbers of beasts, infected with demonic qi, roaming the wilderness. You recklessly charged into their midst, got injured by one of those beasts, and fell unconscious in the grass. Zhang Yexue snorted. I was the first on the scene. Everyone else was still searching. It was like we were the only two people left in the world. If I'd made a move then, you would have died. Everything you'd taken would have come back to me. Those tools and trinkets, Murong Chuyi, even the Yue clan itself, everything could have been mine. He raised a hand, stroking Yue Chunqing's throat. He pressed close. The question he asked was addressed to Yue Chunqing, but he said it as though he were asking himself. Yue Chunqing, Zhang Yexue whispered. Why was I so stupid? Why didn't I kill you? Huntian Cave was still and silent. The only sound was Zhang Yexue's voice. Everyone else was powerless before him. Whether it was Moshi paralyzed by the poison, Murong Chuyi rendered unconscious by his injuries, or little Lan-ar made into a puppet long ago, each a testimony to this man's victory against great odds. Jiang Yeshue's face twisted. When he stared into Yue Chunqing's eyes, the man in the reflection was a far cry from that perfect gentleman he'd once been. It didn't matter. He had long since given up on the person he used to be. "That silly Gaga of yours," he murmured. Truly, he was so stupid. You'd already ruined his life, but he remembered that you were Murong Chuyi's nephew and his own brother by blood. He didn't just fail to kill you. He rushed to save you. He saw that you were in grave danger, and as soon as he sent the signal flare, he purified the demonic chi in you without a thought for whether he might be infected himself. He passed you spiritual energy, keeping you alive. Jiang Yeshue looked up with a soft chuckle. How ridiculous he was. How ridiculous I used to be. I kept you alive until Yue Juntian made it to the scene, but the demonic chi infected me instead. Ah, but when that dear papa of ours saw you in such a state, all he cared about was bringing you back so your injuries could be treated. He didn't even notice me. Blue, exactly. Speaking about yourself in third person is a sign that you're completely sane. Although, he closed his eyes, his tone unreadable. That was for the better. To stop you from succumbing to the demonic chi, I brought it all into my own body. It was a risky choice. If the demonic chi couldn't be fully dispelled, according to the laws of Chonghua, the infected person would be executed. It's really quite fortunate that when Yue Juntian found us, he only had eyes for you, while I was next to nothing. Jiang Yeshue barked out a derisive laugh. In his eyes, I'd always been the expendable son of a commoner. If I threatened his reputation or sullied his name, he would offer me up to the gallows without the slightest hesitation. My mother was absolutely correct. Yue Juntian was callous and heartless. He could do or give up anything to ensure his own safety. Why would he hesitate? I couldn't tell anyone I'd been infected with demonic poison. After I returned to camp with the rest, I snuck back to my own quarters, while everyone else fussed over you. Oh, Yue Chunqing, he sighed. You can't imagine the pain I suffered that night. His tone was nonchalant, but his eyes were so dark as to be depthless. Burned alive, an agony worse than death. All these descriptions would be an understatement. Oh, but... Jiang Yeshue paused then, smiling slightly. My apologies. I forgot you're the young heir of the Yue clan. You've been sheltered since you were little, and never known the meaning of suffering. How could you have any understanding of the things I'm telling you? Later, I tried many methods to draw the poison out, but none worked. Chonghua had never seen this type of demonic poison before. I couldn't control it. I couldn't control it all, and it spread unchecked within me. I felt trapped. I struggled. I felt my hatred and bitterness growing so vivid, I barely recognized it myself. I fought it for a very long time. That bloody nightmare was a thing of the past. Jiang Yeshue's struggle between humanity and demonhood had by his own admission been terribly painful, but now it was tossed out in a few words as an offhand comment. Jiang Yeshue paused, until one day I felt that there was no more need for it. He looked down again. Yue Chunqing, I became like this because I chose to save you. Who could I go to when I was in unbearable pain? Since I was a child, I yielded, I forgave, I conceded, only to end up this way. I'd had enough. I finally realized, so what if we're brothers? I hated you. I didn't want to be that idiot anymore. Moshi was paralyzed from head to toe, but he could hear everything Jiang Yixue said. He closed his eyes. He could almost see Jiang Yixue as a gentle and respectful youth, warm and good to everyone and everything. The image shattered. Huntian Cave echoed with Jiang Yixue's sinister mockery. My mother was right. You did take everything I had. If it weren't for you, all of it would have been mine. Why did I yield to you? Even your life. Yue Chunqing, the only reason you're alive today is because I showed you mercy twice over. As for your fourth uncle... Oh, yeah, Blue, my pitchfork is also out for, Yue Juntian's ghost, I guess? At the mention of Murong Chuyi, the malice in Jiang Yixue's eyes was veiled by a sheen of desire. He ignored you, kept you at arm's length, berated you, refused to see you. Did you think it was because he disliked you? Jiang Yixue laughed harshly. What a joke. I'll tell you now. That's not true at all. You are the person he loves most in Chonghua, because of your lofty, peerless mother, because you're the son of Murong Huang. He would protect you even at the cost of his own life. Yue Chunqing flinched and looked up through teary eyes. The reason he shunned you, he paused, is because of me, of course. Eyes slitted, Jiang Yixue continued lazily. After I decided to stop fighting, the demonic qi no longer caused me pain. Instead, it became something I could control. And that's when I discovered there were many, many ways to make use of that demonic qi. The most compelling was to infect someone else with it. It would then keep them from getting close to anyone but me. Yue Chunqing's tear-sodden lashes fluttered, a delirious fury surging in his chest. His expression was still slack, but shock and anger gave his empty eyes renewed focus. You controlled him, he muttered. No, I've never controlled him, Jiang Yixue replied lightly. The demonic qi was impure. It wasn't powerful enough for that. But every month, at the new moon, he would feel a burning agony. Only by drinking blood from my neck, or by taking the highest quality heart balm, could he obtain relief. Unfortunately, he often decided he'd rather meditate alone through the new moon instead of coming to find me. Only when the heart balm failed to relieve his pain would he be forced to seek me out in desperation. He turned to glance at Moshi. Shihajun is usually so sharp, he said with a smile. You probably already realized that when you came to the academy that night, I feel so stupid now. When you came to the academy that night, this was why my room was in disarray, with blood all over my quilts. Did I just, forget about the blood? He came to me because the pain was more than he could bear. Also, Henry... This was the spoiler, then, that you had heard about the blood drinking? Okay. That night, he lost control of himself completely and tore the room apart. I fed him blood and heart balm, then I drew him into my arms and lay down in my bed. Jiang Yixue, Yue Chunqing cut him off with a furious howl. You dared to coerce him like this. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Jiang Yixue bound Yue Chunqing in place with the mechanisms on the wheelchair. What are you shouting about? He remarked conversationally. I would never coerce Chuyi. He was in awful pain, calling me all sorts of names. I could have disgraced him then, but I never did. That day, I only fed him my blood as usual, then lay with him in bed so his weakened body could recover. I certainly have no interest in rape. Instead of forcing him, I'd rather see him slowly lose his mind. I'd rather watch him dragged closer and closer to the brink every time the poison took effect. I'd rather him kneel before me of his own accord and beg me to take him. That's what I want to see. Yue Chunqing was on the verge of another breakdown. I know, you know what, Henry? I don't feel stupid that I didn't, like, guess exactly what was happening, because it's way too specific for that. But I forgot, like, I'm pretty sure there was, like, blood mentioned. And, Jiang Yashui had some, like, weird, like, really poor excuse for it. And I just, like, didn't know what to do with that, so I just sort of let it, like, slip past me. That's all I meant, is like, wait a minute, I forgot about that. Jiang Yeshui took in his horrified expression, and his delight grew. This wish of mine has been the same since before the demonic chi infected me. I only desired him to say he wants me of his own free will. I wouldn't touch him if he didn't say it. But of course, I had to keep him near me. No one else could be allowed to look or get close to him. To this end, I cast a black magic spell. If he grew too close to anyone, the poison in him would transfer to them. I forbade him from speaking of this. If he did, he'd lose his mind and be reduced to a beast of lust whose sole desire was to submit to me. Oh yeah, not coercion at all. Not at all. Jiang Yeshui sneered. So you see, if I couldn't have him, at least there would be no other annoyances around him. I was willing to wait. 10 years, 20 years. I could let him resist forever, never bending to my will. But I would never let other people vie for his affection. Especially not you. You're insane, Yue Chunqing cried. So? Jiang Yeshui replied calmly. I grew sick long ago of being a gentleman, and there's nothing wrong with being insane. There's no need to be so dramatic. There are plenty of hair-raising truths in this world. For instance, did you know that His Imperial Majesty has known for ages that I've hurt people with demonic chi, and even wholeheartedly supported me in doing so? That's the end of the chapter. Okay. Hey, Blue. Hold on. Okay. Your theory. It does. You know, you're right. It does kind of sound like that, doesn't it? It does. I can completely buy that, honestly. See, on one hand, the Emperor being okay with this is not really that surprising. But he at least... We have caught glimpses of him having sort of a conscience about things, maybe. Seemingly. So it's like, what is your reason for that? He might... I feel like the Emperor is like... His reasoning is twisted, but like he has his reasons for things. So it's like, what could he possibly see as like a positive in this? So, we are on page 141 for chapter 174, which is called Imperial Promises Are Most Unfathomable. Yeah. His Imperial Majesty? Jiang Yeshui had made this revelation without any particular emotion, but the words fell like a boulder into the sea, sending up thunderous waves. How could that be? Yue Chunqing sputtered, terrified. Moshi wasn't as naive as Yue Chunqing, but it was precisely because of this that a penetrating cold enveloped him. The Emperor's face was too often shadowed within the depths of his fur hood, pale as bone, mouth habitually curved in that faint, enigmatic smile. There was at times a semblance of kindliness within his eyes, but he seemed to be a man of thousands of masks. His earnestness looked so real, as did his heroics, his hatred, his devastation, and sorrow. Moshi had seen many of his faces. The Emperor's emotions were painted as flawlessly as any actor's stage makeup. Moshi had never known for sure which face represented the Emperor's true self, or which emotions were his real feelings. Although the revelation that the Emperor supported Jiang Yeshui's use of demonic qi sent a shiver down Moshi's spine, he found that he wasn't the slightest bit surprised. Chonghua's Emperor was a madman. This he'd known for a very long time. Eyes on Yue Chunqing, Jiang Yeshui continued. Each day I watched as you grew up, watched as you began to cling incessantly to Chu Yi. Even when he rebuffed you, you were undeterred. You were like a slug, I thought, a slimy little pest. Since you were little, anything you took a fancy to was something I would lose. I despised you more and more as time went on. Jiang Yeshui paused, his narrow eyes flashing. Eventually, my patience ran out. I decided to cast a black magic spell on you. Yue Chunqing flinched in alarm. Don't act so shocked. Honestly, I would have liked to kill you outright, but Chu Yi would inevitably be upset if you died. Jiang Yeshui mused. I cherished him, so I let you keep your stupid life. But I would curse you, turn you into a mindless idiot, and stop you from tagging along after Chu Yi. And I was so close to succeeding. The spell made it into your heart. Another 2 hours and you would have been beyond saving. His expression darkened. Unfortunately, that day, a guest stopped by the manor at precisely the wrong time. He happened to notice the strange state you were in, and like the busybody he was, he brought you to Shenong Terrace for treatment. Who was it? Asked Yue Chunqing. Who else? Jiang Yeshui's lip curled in disgust. Of course it was my dear friend, that faithful hero, who still struggles to accept his fate, even after being stained to the core by black magic qi. Our very own General Gu. Moshi's heart skipped a beat. Hey, wanna take bets on who, told Zhou He to erase Gumong's memory? At this point, Jiang Yeshui turned his attention to Moshi, who could neither move nor speak. Truly, I loathed him so much, he hissed. After that, the more he wished to keep someone safe, the more I yearned to hurt them. The more he cared for something, the more I wished to destroy it. Shihajun, did you think I didn't know what you would see after I repaired those jade scrolls? Did you think I fixed them because I wanted to help you? Jiang Yeshui scoffed. I merely wanted you to suffer, to push Gumong deeper into the mire of black magic. Who asked him to ruin my plans and destroy my success? He almost exposed my plot right under the late Emperor's nose. Why shouldn't I hate him? Moshi stared, unable to say a word. It was him. He meddled and sent Yue Chunqing to Shenong Terrace. He let the healers discover the black magic energy inside Yue Chunqing, then reported this news to the throne. Jiang Yeshui clicked his tongue. It was a close call. If the late Emperor found out I was cultivating black magic curses, my death would have been assured. Fortunately, the late Emperor wasn't in the capital. He, Yue Juntian, and all the other nobles had gone to the soul-calling abyss for the memorial ceremony, so the case landed in the hands of the crown prince at the time. That is to say, His Imperial Majesty. Jiang Yeshui paused. I must say, our current emperor is a capable man. He quickly identified me and interrogated me with the draught of confession. Back then, I thought everything was over. Who could have known it was only the beginning? His eyes gleamed. When the Crown Prince found I could refine demonic medicines, not only did he not expose me, he took me under his wing and made me a promise. What promise? Yue Chunqing asked. He wanted me to use my demonic qi to conduct the experiments he needed, Zhang Yixue answered. In exchange, he hid my affliction from the court and promised me that, in due time, he would help me seize my rightful position and install me as head of the Yue clan. Met with Yue Chunqing's stunned silence, Zhang Yixue continued. For years, he and I studied black magic items and forbidden techniques. Zhang Yixue swept his sleeves back. I glimpsed many of the Empire's darkest secrets. I knew Gumong was a spy. I've known it for ages. I was the advisor behind nearly all of His Imperial Majesty's unspeakable schemes. Zhang Yixue turned to Moshi with an insincere smile. That's right. Here's another interesting fact. Do you know? The Zhenlong chess piece in Lu Jianxing wasn't planted in him by the Liao Kingdom at all. He grinned in satisfaction, as if savoring Moshi's astonishment. It was my chess piece, and His Imperial Majesty's idea. Okay. After a few moments of stillness, Moshi felt violent dread and disgust surge in his chest. As he'd listened until now, he'd felt mostly a vast disappointment. But as these words sank in, all the color drained from his face. He felt as though he might vomit. Oh yeah, oh, and I just lost my place. Okay. Oh, Henry, yeah, I don't think it was revealed that the Emperor did that. I think it would have been... I don't know why I didn't suspect him, but I don't think we've heard anything about that yet. Henry, please. I'm going to spit out my water. The Sovereign's grand speech atop the Golden Terrace. His grieving words within Juchue Hall. General Gu, you and your army are our most precious treasures. Do you think framing loyal subjects is something that brings us ease? Fireball, we don't have a heart of stone. It's only that sitting on high is like being held in a cage. When have we been able to feel at ease? In his memories, the Emperor's mournful and dignified face distorted and changed, becoming an evil demon's mien. Every word of it had been a lie. His Imperial Majesty has always planned to send someone to the Liao Kingdom to collect more black magic techniques, Zhang Yixue said mildly. At the same time, he felt Gumong's influence should be excised as soon as possible. The poison in Lu Jianxing, the defeat at Phoenix Cry Mountain, the pact on the Golden Terrace. His Imperial Majesty planned each step with care, precisely to strip Gumong of his wings, to turn him into a puppet dancing on the Emperor's strings. In the end, he succeeded. Zhang Yixue laughed coldly again, as if mocking Gumong for his naivete, yet at the same time ridiculing himself. Who isn't a pawn on His Imperial Majesty's board? I'm no exception. I just saw through it, that's all. And that fiancée of mine, Qin Mujin, she'd been less than pleased at the prospect of marrying the son of a concubine without rank or status. After His Imperial Majesty took me under his wing, she gradually warmed to the idea. Later, after her family committed the major crime of counterfeiting money, she clung even more tightly to me, desperate and alone as she was. His features were etched with disdain. Of course I understood what was really going on. His Imperial Majesty didn't know of my feelings toward Murong Chuyi, and thought I had some affection for Qin Mujin. He planted that woman to keep an eye on me. That much was clear to me, but I still wanted the Emperor to help me take back the Yue clan. It wouldn't do to offend him, so I played along. In spite of Yue Juntian's opposition, I persevered in marrying her. The faint curve of his mouth was crooked with mockery. This was the outcome His Imperial Majesty wanted. As long as my wife was someone he'd put in place, the Yue clan would remain under his thumb after I became its master. This was his plan all along. But unfortunately, Qin Mujin disappointed him. She died in our first battle with the Liao Kingdom. Everyone had said Jiang Yeshui and his wife were deeply in love, yet it turned out to be nothing more than a facade. Their love was an act, their wedding a performance, and only her death brought him any joy. Blue, what is it with the Murong family and assigning spy wives for people? Yeah. Our emperor is suspicious by nature. Of course he thought she died in battle because I discovered his intentions and killed her off on purpose. Jiang Yeshui paused, his features ugly with contempt and madness. It was truly hilarious. Could he really blame me for that woman's uselessness? Even so, His Imperial Majesty lost faith in me. Shortly after, Gu Mong successfully infiltrated the Liao Kingdom's inner circle, becoming his most promising lead for black magic techniques. He began gradually to push me out of his clique, dragging his feet when it came time to give me the power over the Yue clan he'd promised. Jiang Yeshui continued in a distant, forbidding tone. After I injured my legs in battle and became disabled, he treated me coldly. When I asked him when he would make good on his promise, he'd impatiently brush me off, like he had more important things to worry about. He sneered. It was lucky Yue Juntian taught me the meaning of callous and unfeeling so well. When bargaining with a tiger for its pelt, one of course prepares for all contingencies. I knew he was liable to go back on his word after getting what he wanted, and that he might silence me when I was no longer useful. So one day, I told him I'd set up more than 100 magical implements. If I died as a victim of one of his schemes, these implements would be triggered. Jiang Yeshui licked his lips, ravenous as any predator, and reveal all of his dark and dirty secrets to the whole of Chonghua. Jiang Yeshui chuckled, reveling in his triumph. He panicked then. He put on another show for me, trying to talk me out of it by promising the Yue clan would be mine. I just needed to wait a little longer. He even went personally to the Cultivation Academy to organize better quarters for me. His smile faded, leaving darkness behind. Too little, too late, he sneered. Why would I trust him again? The man on the throne was too scared to mess with me, and I wasn't on his side any longer. But we had each other's secrets in our grasp. Neither of us spoke of what we knew, but it was only to leave each other some measure of dignity. I understand what drives every one of his actions, including why he so badly wanted that wisp of the demon blood beast's soul. Moshi felt another wave of disgust. The wisp of the demon blood beast's soul? His ears pounded dully. He was bitterly disappointed. Gu Mong had risked his life to bring back that remnant soul, all to stop the Liao Kingdom from reawakening the beast. Could it be that the Emperor wanted it for... Jiang Yeshui anticipated his question. Of course His Imperial Majesty didn't lie to you. If the Liao Kingdom obtained the final wisp of the demon blood beast's soul, war would break out immediately, and Chonghua would be done for. He didn't seize that remnant for peace across the 9 provinces, though, but for his own eternal supremacy. His Imperial Majesty isn't content with mediocrity, and he doesn't fear battle. You two should have come up with some way to seal the soul yourselves instead of handing it over to him. His laugh was cutting. I'm afraid the war Gumong hoped to prevent has in fact been expedited. You'll see. Soon, the Liao Kingdom will start a never-ending war with Changhua over that wisp of soul. And our emperor, without a doubt, he'll meet their attack with your blood and lives, and wage the war he's been yearning for. He'll achieve the glory that he's always sought. Zhang Yishui's aura now was both crisply elegant and utterly terrifying. Once he acquired his new lackey Gu Mong, there was no one to help me anymore, whether with healing my legs or seizing my position. Nope, can I turn a page? Yue Chunqing's face was stained with tears and blood. Heal your legs, he mumbled in confusion before realization set in. So you took in little Lan Er not to care for her, but because you wanted her spiritual core. Of course, Zhang Yishui readily agreed. Within her own body, her spiritual core only posed a risk to her. Now that I've taken it, her core provides me spiritual energy and powers the supports I've inlaid into my legs. What's wrong with that? Okay, I know he's like terrible evil genius, but I have to take a appreciating evil genius moment because he like basically performed like a surgery on himself and he's powering it with magic. Anyway. Of course, Zhang Yishui readily agreed. Oh, I read that already. You turned her into a puppet just so you could heal. You plotted this whole disaster in Huntian Cave just to take the Yue clan. You killed so many people. In his rage, tears brimmed in Yue Chunqing's bloodshot eyes. Zhang Yishui, after this, who would ever acknowledge you? Who could ever stand the sight of you? Zhang Yishui chuckled. Are you a pig? Once we leave this cave, who will know it was I who killed all those people? I merely used my demonic energy to activate the seed I planted in Chu Yi's heart. Even if they send 100 coroners, the result of their investigations will be the same. All of them died at Murong Chu Yi's hand. Yue Chunqing cried out, hoarse with desperation. You want to ruin his reputation as well? You want him to take the blame for you? What reputation does he have to lose? Zhang Yishui replied blithely. And as for the blame, there's no need for that. It's easy enough to threaten his Imperial Majesty and have Chu Yi secreted out of the prison. Murong Chu Yi will disappear from the world. I'll lock him up in the depths of Yue Manor. He'll belong to me, but his life will be in no danger. Don't worry. Even if I kill all of Yue Manor, I'll still spare him. A blade of brilliant light coalesced in Zhang Yishui's hand. He slowly raised the tip of the summoned sword to Yue Chunqing's throat. Yue Chunqing, I've given you 20 extra years on this earth. I've done my duty as your brother, Zhang Yishui smiled. Don't blame me beneath the 9 springs. He swung, the blade of his sword whistling downward. And that's the end of the chapter. Oh, don't worry. I'll just attic wife him and we'll be so happy. I was reading somewhere that the term attic wife came from Arha fans. I don't know if that's, like, possible to confirm. Like, they might be wrong, but that's what I've heard. Which just makes it extra funny. Because this is very... It is very Tasha and June. Well, let me see something. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna read this and then take a break, and I'll try to make it a short break since we, like, lost a little bit of time. But I definitely want to read this chapter first. I don't want to leave us hanging on that. There's a Wikipedia article for Attic Wife? It's in the article? That's awesome. Okay. I love that. I love that for us. We're on page 151 for chapter 175, which is called If That Year Could Have Been Eternal. In that instant, a blue-green blur flashed across Zhang Yeshui's vision. He withdrew his blade and leapt back, his graceful brows drawn low in a rictus of fury. A bamboo warrior. Indeed, it was one of Murong Chuyi's bamboo warriors that had blocked his strike. The blue-green puppet wielded a scimitar and made wordless bellowing noises as it shielded Yue Chunqing. Zhang Yeshui whirled in surprise, expecting Murong Chuyi had awoken, only to find the man still lying insensate in a puddle of his own blood. Chill realization washed over him. It was Yue Chunqing. Yue Chunqing had been faking his terror. When they'd fought the sword demon Li Qingqian so long ago, Yue Chunqing had summoned the protection of a bamboo warrior with a terrified shriek. Murong Chuyi was their master, but if he fell unconscious, they obeyed Yue Chunqing's orders in his stead. While listening to Zhang Yeshui talk, Yue Chunqing had stealthily summoned all of the bamboo warriors wandering aimlessly through the cave. Zhang Yeshui swung his gaze back to Yue Chunqing. Despite his anguish, the vacant expression Yue Chunqing had previously worn was gone. Zhang Yeshui ground his teeth. Yue Chunqing, I underestimated you. Yue Chunqing coughed up a mouthful of blood, then looked up, panting. I already told you. I'm the head of the Yue clan now. How could I... Bloody spittle stained his teeth scarlet. How could I allow you to commit such evil deeds inside Huntian Cave? He cried out. All of you, strike. At his order, dozens of bamboo warriors swarmed out from the large boulder they'd gathered behind, charging toward Zhang Yeshui like a great tide. Shrill howls burst from their wooden mouths as they struck to kill. While these formidable automatons embroiled Zhang Yeshui in battle, Yue Chunqing struggled free of the bindings on the wheelchair. Rising shakily to his feet, he stumbled over to Mo Shi. Shihajun, I'm sorry, he said. We've dragged you into these Yue clan matters. Mo Shi, paralyzed by demonic poison, could not respond. Yue Chunqing's black eyes were wet. He sagged with exhaustion, but his gaze glimmered with steely resolve. But I will not. I will never let you and fourth uncle be wronged and wounded in vain. He turned and willed his wounded body toward the blood pool, step by painstaking step. A shudder rippled through Mo Shi. Was Yue Chunqing planning to make blood sacrifice to the resentful spirits in exchange for Zhang Yeshui's life? Zhang Yeshui had also guessed Yue Chunqing's goal. He swore, the saber in his hand suddenly blazing with golden light. With one violent swing, half of the bamboo warriors, surging toward him like a massive wave, were blown to smithereens. A golden chain swept outward, flying straight at Yue Chunqing's legs. But though Yue Chunqing was weakened, he had fought with Mo Shi on the frontier for 2 years. He wasn't as feeble and useless as his brother assumed. Enduring the pain of his wounds, he dove to the side, dodging the chain. Yue Chunqing was breathless, his eyes blurred with tears, his hatred mixed with countless other emotions. Zhang Yeshui, I've never liked arguing or fighting, and I really hate competing over things. If you wanted me to return what I'd taken from you, why didn't you just say so? Oh, now you graciously want to step down? Zhang Yeshui scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Yue Chunqing, all the power in the world is taken by force, even the Emperor's throne. But did you have to kill so many people just for this? Can you really live with yourself if you stand on a mountain of corpses to reach the top of the Yue clan. Why not? Zhang Yishui burst into sinister laughter. I'm done struggling with my conscience like a fool. Never mind the people in Huntian Cave today. Even if my path were paved with the bodies of all the cultivators in the 9 provinces, I wouldn't feel the slightest twinge of discomfort. Yue Chunqing looked back at him through weary, scarlet eyes, as though he could hardly bear to speak to him a moment longer. You will not succeed, he said weakly. You'll never get what you want, whether it's the Yue clan or 4th uncle. With that, he leapt toward the blood pool, ready to sacrifice his soul. In that flickering instant, a golden chain snaked tightly around Yue Chunqing's waist. Yue Chunqing jerked around. Little Lan Er held the other end of the chain, looking at him with an expression of utmost apathy. When Zhang Yishui had missed his target seconds ago, he'd transferred the chain's spiritual energy to his puppet Lan Er, who was standing behind Yue Chunqing. She had struck in the moment Yue Chunqing's guard was down, immobilizing him. Oh, Blue. It was the Fanlore website. No, I've seen that. Yeah, the fandom Wikipedia, basically. They do have a similar format. Seizing his chance, Zhang Yishui threw off the bamboo warriors besieging him. This elegant, refined man strolled out of the cloud of bamboo shards and smoke, menace scrawled upon his features. He stepped up to Yue Chunqing and grabbed him by the neck. Yue Chunqing, you seem to be in a rush to die, and I'd like nothing more than to send you on your way. As Zhang Yishui tightened his grip, Yue Chunqing flushed crimson, unable to get a word out. But there's no need for you to jump into the blood pool, he continued. Don't even think of using your soul to bargain with the monsters in there and ruining my plans. The unruly spiritual core he'd seized from little Lan Er filled his body with a scintillating flame. And please don't call yourself the master of the Yue clan. That's all too laughable. The resentful spirits in Huntian Cave will never listen to you. You just damaged your own spiritual core like an idiot. You're an invalid. You'll never be able to become the head of the Yue clan as you are. And the next in line is me. He raised a hand and sent a beam of spiritual energy spearing toward Yue Chunqing's heart. Yue Chunqing vomited a mouthful of coppery blood. That hissing spiritual power had shattered his already fragile spiritual core to dust. We're just breaking cores left and right. Zhang Yishui's eyes glinted like those of a vulture ready to dine on a fresh kill. He seemed bent on seeing Yue Chunqing as helpless and desperate as possible. After ruining his spiritual core, Zhang Yishui reached up and bellowed, "Hear and obey." His voice echoed through Huntian Cave, followed by innumerable screams. The resentful spirits and demons who had been directionless recognized their new master. They threw their heads back and opened their mouths, emitting earth-shaking howls. The blood pool roiled with crashing scarlet waves as the evil spirits that hadn't yet breached the water stirred and shrieked within. Zhang Yishui laughed, his smile a malevolent twist. "Yue Chunqing, do you understand now who the real master of the Yue clan is?" he asked, dripping scorn. "You'll never command them because you aren't worthy." "If he's not worthy," said a cold voice, "then what about me?" Zhang Yishui jumped in surprise, his face still a mask of mad arrogance. He whipped around in recognition. "Chu Yi?" Yes. Finally. At some point, Murong Chu Yi had regained consciousness. Pressing a hand over his wounds, he struggled upright from that puddle of blood, a wretched sight. Although he had lost his usual bearing of an immortal in fluttering white, his unsettling air of calm hadn't lessened in the slightest. His face was bone white from blood loss, but his expression somehow seemed more peaceful than usual. Murong Chuyi looked at Zhang Yeshui coolly. Yue Yeshui, would I be worthy? Both were born of concubines. Zhang Yeshui's mother was Madame Xie, and Murong Chuyi's mother was Miss Chu. Yue Chunqing was the true-born son, birthed to the first wife, Murong Huang. When Yue Chunqing lost the ability to control the resentful spirits of the blood pool, Murong Chuyi and Zhang Yeshui had become equal. Murong Chuyi ignited that same blinding spiritual flame, its light setting his sharp phoenix eyes ablaze. He shouted, voice steady, hear and obey. Those resentful spirits surged restlessly again, and the demons that had just obeyed Zhang Yeshui turned at the sound of Murong Chuyi's new order, pressing toward Zhang Yeshui and little Lan Er. A look of shock came over Zhang Yeshui's face, but he held onto his composure. Chuyi, you know you're no match for me, he said, narrowing his eyes. Murong Chuyi didn't answer, funneling all his spiritual energy into those blood spirits. What are you playing at? Zhang Yeshui scoffed. You're no match for me in spiritual energy. I can take control of your mind again, you. Rise, Murong Chuyi commanded sharply. The throng of resentful spirits threw themselves howling at Zhang Yeshui, who swept back his sleeves and unleashed a torrent of his own spiritual energy to pull these evil spirits back under control. He heard Murong Chuyi laugh grimly. Yue Yeshui, you're correct. You steal spiritual energy and destroy spiritual cores. You feed people poison and control their minds. Indeed, I'm no match for you. I'm weaker by far. Zhang Yeshui watched him uncertainly. I grew so very tired of being your puppet, but I endured it to protect Yue Chunqing. I persevered, no matter how loathsome I found it to be. He hesitated. To tell you the truth, I've had enough. I don't care about the Yue clan anymore. Hearing him capitulate, Zhang Yeshui seemed to relax minutely. He took a step forward. Chuyi, if you don't interfere today, then, on your behalf, I could still... But Murong Chuyi merely regarded him stonily. Zhang Yeshui, there's no need to negotiate with me. Don't think you'll ever control me again. Zhang Yeshui froze in place. Murong Chuyi's expression seemed to take on a hint of relief, like a sigh. It's been more than 20 years, he said softly. It's time for what's between us to come to an end. Realization dawned upon Zhang Yeshui. Rushing forward, he cried out in panic, Chuyi! But it was too late. There was only the sound of cloth rippling in the wind. Zhang Yeshui clutched the empty air as the corner of Murong Chuyi's pale sleeves slipped through his fingertips. Those blood-stained white robes fluttered down and away, plunging into the bubbling mass of the blood pool. It was deathly silent. For a moment, none of them, not Yue Chunqing, Zhang Yeshui, or even Mo Shi, felt what they'd seen was real. Murong Chuyi had moved so decisively, as in everything he'd ever done. The instant he committed to something, he always acted without wasting breath on words. He would never draw out his farewells, or explain anything to anyone. Or perhaps he knew Zhang Yeshui could easily take control of his body again, so he wouldn't allow him any such chance. Murong Chuyi had always been merciless, even to himself. For one moment, Mo Shi thought that he might see Murong Chuyi soar out of the pool on Zhao Shui, landing upon the shore like an immortal cast down to earth. As when he had attacked the sword demon Li Qingqian, looking thoroughly unconcerned, yet completely confident in his victory. But he didn't. The blood pool boiled, but only a massive scarlet wave swelled on its surface, coalescing into the distorted shapes of evil spirits screaming as they shot toward Zhang Yixue. Yue Chunqing finally found his voice. "Fourth uncle," he screamed, voice breaking. "Don't." As for Zhang Yixue, he stood rooted to the spot, his eyes wide, his face distorted with rage. He lifted a hand. He could have stopped the ghost's attack in that moment, but the image of Murong Chuyi, swallowed by the blood pool, still danced before his eyes. Murong Chuyi's last words still seemed to echo in his ears, as if in a dream. Meat bun. Meat bun, meat bun, meat bun! Okay, I have more. I have to keep reading. In his schemes, he'd prepared for everyone's death. He was willing to use anyone's life as a bargaining chip, but he'd never accounted for Murong Chuyi's. He stood rooted to the spot without fully knowing why. Oh, Henry, it lagged for you for a bit. He said, "It's been more than 20 years," he said softly. "It's time for what's between us to come to an end." Those were his last words, apparently. Oh man, no, don't say that. Chu Yi and Yue Chunqing are never going to have a single nice interaction. Ow. But he'd never accounted for Murong Chuyi's. He stood rooted to the spot without fully knowing why. Before he could question himself, before he could name what he was feeling, the blood pool's ferocious wave crashed down upon him without mercy. All he saw was drenched in scarlet. "Do you," Zhang Yixue murmured senselessly, his voice quavering, "do you really hate me so much?" No one answered. The crimson filling his vision was not unlike that old plum tree from many years ago, blooming a splendid red against the whitewashed wall. Back then, he had been young and righteous, unsullied and innocent. He'd walked over, umbrella held aloft, toward that youth's back. Smiling, he'd asked gently, "Which family do you belong to? What brings you out here without an umbrella in such heavy snow?" When Murong Chuyi turned, his eyes held neither hatred nor the disappointment and sorrow that came later. He only regarded him quietly. But this recollection differed from their first meeting. Dazed, he saw Murong Chuyi smile back at him. Against the backdrop of falling snow and plum blossoms, that youth said to him, "Nice to meet you. My name is Murong Chuyi." An ache pierced Zhang Yixue's heart, the pain of 2 decades stabbing through his chest. In the first half of his life, he lived strictly by the principles of morality. The world hadn't been fair to him, but Murong Chuyi at least had trusted and defended him. In the second half, he'd stained his hands with blood and come up with 1,000 plots and schemes. Just as he stood to reclaim his power, he found the same man standing before him, blocking his way. Murong Chuyi had once protected him, when everyone distanced themselves from him. When all his old friends avoided him, it was Murong Chuyi who gave him a place to stay. He gave him recognition, encouragement, and a home. Perhaps Murong Chuyi didn't truly hate him. Rather, the Zhang Yixue whom Murong Chuyi respected had died by his own hand the moment he had stumbled down that demonic path. In his last moments, he heard Yue Chunqing's heart-rending sobs and an agonized howl. "Fourth uncle." "He's your fourth uncle," Zhang Yixue thought. "At the beginning of this story, he belonged to me alone. If only time had stopped for us in that year, on that day, beneath that old plum blossom tree." How nice that would have been. Fourth uncle, fourth uncle. The blood tide retreated, taking the broken bamboo warriors with it, along with the resentful spirits that had leapt out of the pool. The flood of evil spirits had devoured Jiang Yishui. You know what I just realized? Is that before all of this happened, all this, Gumong was just waiting to meet his relative. Oh. Oh my god. Oh, sorry, he jumped into the blood pool. Little Lan Er lay crumpled on the ground, unconscious. Yue Chunqing had fallen to his knees, crawling pathetically toward the pool. His face was a wash of tears, and he was sobbing piteously. Fourth uncle, no, no, don't go, he cried incoherently. I'll never get angry with you again, he wailed. Please, I'm begging. Hold on, everybody. As if answering his plea, a beam of gentle white light glowed to life within the abyssal pool. Yue Chunqing's head snapped up, his pupils contracting to pinpricks. He trembled all over, his lips white and bloodless. He was so harrowed, and yet so hopeful, trailing blood over the ground as he dragged himself to the edge of the pool. Fourth uncle. It was indeed Murong Chuyi, floating out of the blood pool. He had offered up his souls, and was running out of spiritual energy and time. His pristine white figure turned insubstantial as they watched. Just as before, when Yue Chunqing had gotten into trouble and his uncle had swooped in to save him, Murong Chuyi's silk ribbons fluttered and his sleeves billowed. He was haloed by Zhao Xue's glow as he alighted like an immortal coming to earth. Henry, I know, right? I'm like, what? Meat Bun, what are you doing to us? Murong Chuyi had always come to his rescue with an air of great impatience. He never looked directly at Yue Chunqing, and hardly deigned to talk with him. But now, Murong Chuyi was freed of Jiang Yishui's black magic curse. He no longer had to worry that showing affection might infect someone with demonic qi. He could finally do what Yue Chunqing had always yearned he would. Look down with a soft smile, raise a softly glowing hand, and gently place it atop Yue Chunqing's head. Yue Chunqing wept in silence, his tears falling like rain. All of us right now. You've done very well, Yue Chunqing. Murong Chuyi's voice was light as smoke, echoing through the wreckage of Huntian Cave. Unfortunately, your fourth uncle never properly spent time with you, taught you, or cared for you. That's not true. That's not true. You treated me well, so well. I'm the one who let you down. It was me. Fourth uncle, don't go. Let me go instead. Let me. What are you talking about? Murong Chuyi extended 2 fingers and gently touched them to Yue Chunqing's forehead. You're young yet, with a long road ahead of you. This is the last time I can come to your rescue. In the future, you must be diligent and work hard. Remember, you're not only Murong Huang's son. After a pause, he spoke in a gentle voice. You're also my nephew, Yue Chunqing. And his brother. Oh, you just said that, Blue. He just wanted to spoil his nephew brother. Murong Chuyi turned and approached Moshi. Placing his hand over Moshi's heart, he sent the last bit of energy from his soul to dispel that stubborn demonic poison. Moshi coughed out a mouthful of blood as his limbs regained feeling. Murong, he rasped. Murong Chuyi shook his head. You haven't told Gumong I'm his Goga yet, have you? He asked softly. Moshi couldn't reply. Please don't ever tell him, Murong Chuyi said gently. I'm sorry, Shiha Jun. He drew his hand away from Moshi's chest. His figure had paled almost to nothingness, a quickly fading mirage. Everyone's lives are ruled by fate. It seems Gumong and I were never fated to be. I won't be able to honor our agreement for tomorrow. I ask you to tell him. Tell him to take care. That last glow gradually faded. Only Murong Chuyi's voice remained in the cave, soft with a gentleness no one had ever heard. Please don't wait for me. What? That's the end of the chapter. I'm a little, I got a little bit, I got pretty distressed, and so I'm a little, I'm distressed again after going back and forth and not knowing what was going on exactly. I don't 100% understand what Murong Chuyi just did. Like, he used up all his soul energy, so he's... I don't know. What? I don't understand. But the next chapter is called Murong Chuyi. Yeah. Yeah, Henry, exactly. Oh, Blue, I know. I'm gonna reread that at some point, and I'm gonna be so upset. He assuaged the blood pool demon, so Yue Chunqing won't need to sacrifice his own chi later. But, like, he just, like, faded out. I don't... Okay. Okay. So does that mean... I feel stupid right now. Like, does that mean he's actually dead now? Or, like... Okay. Meat Bun, why did you do this to us? Okay, I was like, no, maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe he... okay, cool. Okay. Yeah. If he gave up his souls... I am also confused about Yue Chunqing, because I did think they used the word shattered regarding his core, so to me that sounds like fully broken, not just like damaged. Like, I don't know if you can put that together. I'm not sure. But yeah, Henry, I agree with what you're saying. This might be the first time for me too that I'm legitimately angry at Meat Bun, and not just in a like, oh my god, why is she such a good writer kind of way. Like, not like I just... What? Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna take a break and somehow process this, and then when we come back, we'll be on page 163 for chapter 176, which is called Murong Chuyi. Fun stuff. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I'm not any more recovered than I was before. um, I just kind of had to make some tea and stand and stare at the wall for a bit. Um, so we're on chapter 176 called Murong Chuyi. Oh, and we're back with Gumong. Gumong sat beside the window at the inn. He'd been awake some time now. When he saw Moshi had left a barrier, he knew he must have gone out to take care of something, so he wasn't anxious at all. He sat obediently at the window and waited for Moshi to return. After all the torment he had endured, his senses and emotions had become sluggish. It was rare now that he felt anything vividly. His joy, rage, sorrow, and delight had faded, as though rinsed with water. But as he watched the horizon pale like the white belly of a fish, he remembered that this dawn would mark the day his Guga had promised to meet him, that he would soon have a brother and a family, and a smile stole across his face. Propping his elbows on the windowsill, he gazed with anticipation at the rosy clouds as the morning sun peered over the edge of the world. After a moment of thoughtful hesitation, he stood and fetched the white robes Moshi had bought him. Given his clumsiness, he worried he might dirty these clean clothes and had been afraid to wear them, though he liked them very much. But today, he was going to see his big brother, so things were different. When Moshi returned, the sky had not yet grown bright, caught on the very cusp of dawn. He pushed open the door and caught a glimpse of the man standing by the window, an upright and slender figure with a jade clasp in his hair, robes pristine as snow brushing the ground. His heart skipped a beat. In that dazzling instant, he wished everything that had transpired at Huntian Cave had been a dream, that the person leaning against the windowsill was Murong Chuyi, that Murong Chuyi had come as he said he would. But it wasn't so. Slowly, his vision cleared. The man who looked back at him from across the room was Gumong in his new clothes, waiting quietly, docilely, eagerly for his brother to arrive. Moshi? Upon seeing that Moshi had come back, Gumong was happy at first, but he became confused when he noticed the splotches of blood on Moshi's clothes. What happened to you? He walked to Moshi. Moshi didn't reply. He couldn't reply. Only 3 people had walked out of Huntian Cave. Little Lon R had been sent to a healer's hall for emergency treatment, and both Moshi and Yue Chunqing could barely speak. Yue Chunqing had alternated between whimpers and sobs, then sat blankly by the blood pool. He was running through 100 interactions he'd had with Murong Chuyi in the past, thinking about how he'd taken Jiang Yeshui at his word, and pushed his lonely 4th uncle deeper into a freezing abyss. Murong Chuyi left no personal effects behind. The closest things were the dilapidated bamboo warriors scattered throughout Huntian Cave. All of them obeyed Yue Chunqing's commands now. They had lost the master who carved them into being. But when Moshi accidentally touched one, it shrank to a size small enough to fit into his palm. It lay quietly on the ground, as if it had completed the last mission with which its master had entrusted it, and was now waiting for Moshi to bring it home. Moshi produced that little bamboo warrior and pressed it to Gumong's hand. Gumong blinked in astonishment, but he was not stupid, only slow to react. He had always been good at understanding people, even if the knowledge only brought him greater pain. The room was terrifyingly silent. After a while, Gumong said quietly, "He won't be coming, will he?" A pause. "Does he?" Not like me? Moshi reached out and drew Gumong into his arms. Shoving down his sorrow, he said, "No, he just has some personal business to take care of and had to leave. He likes you very much, which is why he had me bring this little bamboo figure to you. Once he sorts everything out, he'll come back." "How long will it take?" "It might take a very long time." Gumong was silent. At length he asked softly, "Moshi, why are you crying?" Why was he crying? The upheaval in Huntian Cave had happened over the course of one short day and night, but it had upended over a decade's worth of events. Zhang Yeshui's warmth and tenderness were false. His love for Qin Mujin was false. Murong Chuyi's heartlessness was false. Everything that the emperor had said to him was false. It seemed Moshi had been living in a puzzle box of schemes. He treated everyone with sincerity, yet he was greeted in turn with mask after mask. He'd once thought everything he'd done for the nation was righteous, that grace and grievance were cleanly divided, but after his final upheaval, he understood once and for all that they'd all been no more than pawns on the chessboard. How ruthless had the current emperor been that he plotted for Zhang Yeshui to lead Liu Jianxing astray, to sacrifice the lives of 70,000 soldiers, all to ensure that Gumong had no choice but to obey him. Gumong had lived for 5 years as a spy, enduring the weight of his bloody crimes entirely alone. For that remnant of the demon blood beast's soul, he'd even lost his human mind and given up his opportunity to meet his elder brother. They had sacrificed so much in hopes that the war would cease, that the 9 provinces would be at peace. But in the end, which of their accomplishments hadn't merely served to sharpen the emperor's blades? Moshi felt an endless, bone-deep exhaustion. After the catastrophe in Huntian Cave, Moshi couldn't stay in Lin'an with Gumong to look for that reclusive Grand Master. Oh no. News of the tragedy that had befallen the Yue clan spread like wildfire. Blazing across Chonghua, the entire nation was in shock. Moshi and Gumong helped Yue Chunqing make the necessary arrangements and traveled with him as he brought the bier back to the capital. The funeral rites were an absurd pantomime. The imperial family had to preserve their image. They wouldn't carelessly reveal Yue Juntian's repulsive deeds. No walls in the world, however, were solid enough to stop talk from spreading. Everyone soon knew the truth, and the mourning songs seemed profoundly ridiculous. Through the swaying white banners, beyond the dense crowd of mourners, Moshi gazed up at the distant emperor, solemnly pouring wine on the memorial platform. His fingernails sank deep into his palms. What did this person consider his subjects, his soldiers, his civilians to be? The Yue clan's funeral procession was a quick affair. Yue Chunqing had no heart for it, and more pressingly, the skirmishes between Chonghua and the Liao kingdom had grown frequent. As the emperor was performing the memorial ceremony, members of the Bureau of Military Affairs were waiting to report to him about the situation on the frontier. The scent of smoke was strong on the wind. Zhang Yeshui was right. The conflict between Chonghua and the Liao kingdom hadn't ended because they'd seized the remnant of the demon blood beast's soul. Instead, it had only become more volatile. The funeral goers fidgeted anxiously. Even the handful of stubbornly optimistic nobles recognized that they stood on the cusp of an all-out war between Chonghua and Liao. I heard the Guoshe of the Liao kingdom developed some new techniques he used in the battles on the frontier. It's an enchanted plague that can infect an entire city with demonic qi in a handful of days. Heavens above, what do we do now? Ah, I don't know either. I heard Sishu Terrace and Shenong Terrace have been developing countermeasures, but I hope they can work faster. The Liao Kingdom has been sending wave after wave of troops to the border. I am afraid a true battle will be next. The speaker's complexion was gray with fright. If there's no way to defend against this demonic chi, what soldier would dare stand against them? It's the same as a death sentence. I'm not going to the front lines, no matter what. The crowd shuffled and whispered among themselves. With the Yue clan's pain laid out before them, these old nobles were quietly discussing how to save their own skins in the coming war. In the end, people would always be more preoccupied with their own worries than the tragedies of others. Yue Chunqing had no interest in remaining at the burial grounds to accept these insincere expressions of grief, and instead returned to Yue Manor. Oh no, it's 2020. The demonic chi plague. After all the deaths, it was terrifyingly empty. He wandered through the corridors. Whenever his eye caught on something that reminded him of the past, his heart ached fiercely, and his shoulders crumpled inward, as though he was struggling to breathe. Each time he had to sit down for a spell before he could continue walking. He was a young man, but overnight his joints seemed to have rusted over. Even striding through the halls of his home was now a jerky and laborious endeavor. When he reached the doors of Murong Chuyi's artificing workshop, he stared at it without seeing for a long time. This was one of the most difficult places to enter in all of Changhua, requiring both secret techniques and mysterious incantations. But Yue Chunqing seemed to have had an epiphany, or perhaps it was merely a wholehearted conviction. He raised a hand and pressed it against a door. The little wooden guardian popped out from its hidden compartment with a creak. "Who goes there?" it asked. The voice was low and melodic as the cracking of Kunlun jade. Murong Chuyi's voice. The sound seemed to stab Yue Chunqing in the chest, the ache stopping up any possible answer. He knew nothing of any secret techniques or passwords. He slumped over, burying his face in his hands as he sobbed, "Fourth uncle." As his sobs turned into wails, that figurine watched him quietly. Yue Chunqing curled into a ball outside the workshop as he cried, "Fourth uncle, I miss you." This was certainly not the correct incantation. Nevertheless, the tightly shut workshop doors emitted a muffled rumble, and the double doors opened outward with a groan. Yue Chunqing watched in near disbelief, then slowly picked himself up and walked inside. The workshop was a mess. The master of this room was a busy man, and diagrams featuring every sort of mechanism and implement were pinned over the walls. Many were mere ideas that Murong Chuyi hadn't gotten the chance to realize. Yue Chunqing looked through the drawings one by one. Murong Chuyi's reputation had been so poor that he was known as the ignorance of Chonghua's 3 poisons. Yet the items Murong Chuyi had locked himself into his artificing workshop to create were all things that could benefit others. There were wooden mechanisms that could carry water, magical implements that could ward off evil. More sketches were piled up on his desk. Murong Chuyi had lived under a curse that kept him at a distance from everyone. All the kindness he felt toward the world had been poured into these heaps and stacks of diagrams. He'd probably thought he'd live for a long time. Even if his solitude was hard to endure, at least he'd have many years to turn these ideas into reality. Yue Chunqing rummaged through the items on the desk. There were wooden bearings, a few round nails, and some delicate bamboo warrior joints. Every time he picked up something, he looked at it carefully. When he thought about why Murong Chuyi had made these things, his heart ached fit to break. Greed, wrath, ignorance. Greed, wrath, ignorance. The most heartless artificer, outside the confines of this room. People spoke only of his infamy, while hidden within was his concern for the people. The careful notes beneath each diagram made Yue Chunqing's throat close up and his eyes mist over. At times, he had to spend a long time forcing down the pain in his heart before he could keep reading. He learned that this wooden mechanism was to help elderly people, and that tool was to protect children. He even found a stack of talismans mimicking the Yue clan's talismans of indestructibility. Oh, there's art. I don't want to, Gripping that stack of papers, he suddenly realized that when the sword demon Li Qingqian had wreaked havoc in Chonghua, and the poor commoners couldn't afford the Yue clan's protective spells, the one who silently gave out talismans hadn't been Jiang Yixue at all. It had been... Yue Chunqing held those yellowed papers, feeling as if he'd been punched in the gut. He doubled over, dissolving into sobs of grief. It had been his fourth uncle. He'd never been greed, wrath, or ignorance. He was virtue, mind, and wisdom. The gentlest, most tolerant person who endured everything and kept his conscience clear, even when forced to desperate straits. That was his fourth uncle, Murong Chuyi. Fourth uncle. Yue Chunqing sobbed as if shattered, shutting himself up in this little artificing room. The water clock dripped soundlessly away. The ink on the inkstone hadn't been washed clean, and a brush still lay askew next to the white paper, as if Murong Chuyi had rushed out just a moment ago to take care of something. The mechanisms and diagrams that filled this room, those unfeeling, inanimate objects, couldn't know that their owner was never coming back. So the art. I'm sorry to do this to you. Yeah. That's the end of the chapter. Good lord. I guess I'm gonna read one more chapter and then we'll stop for the day. Yeah, I think Meat Bun is the one getting us. Where, Nina, don't say that! No! No, that's, I don't want to think about that. Okay, we're on page 173 for chapter 177. Oh, I'm okay. I'm faring all right. That was just a lot. And I'm like super sad about Murong Chuyi, and I'm still like low-key sad about Jiang Yixue because I didn't see him being evil like coming, you know? I guess some people were better able to predict that than me. If I had to say one thing, if I honestly I'm like, Meat Bun, you can bash us over the head and that is well within your right. And the one thing is I'm always salty when it turns out that like, ooh, the villain behind the scenes is the guy in the wheelchair. Like, did it have to be the guy in the wheelchair? Did it? But anyway. Okay. Chapter 177 is called Murong Lian attends the banquet. Tomorrow we'll have Ranwan together. You are so right, Henry. Yeah, that's worth it. Now, I guess the one thing is like, well, Jiang Yishui was starting to scheme before he was disabled. So that's something, I guess, but like not anyway. Okay. The day after the Yue clan's funeral, a massive creature with wings dark as ink flew over the capital of Chonghua. To the frightened citizens below, it looked like a falcon covered in the white fur of a beast, everywhere but its stormy feathered wings. This mysterious chimera beat its enormous wings as it cut swiftly through the clouds. Even the fastest sword riders couldn't catch it. After it flew a circle above the capital, it dissolved into a gust of dark wind and vanished. In its wake, a torrential rain fell over the capital for a full 3 days, blurring the lines between night and day, dawn and dusk. When it cleared, many in the city suddenly fell ill. The healers from Shenong Terrace reached a terrifying conclusion. All those people had been infected with demonic qi. Chonghua had never cultivated the demonic path and had no practical experience in handling such dark diseases. Whatever of the qi Shenong Terrace managed to cleanse away, it was nowhere near enough. Too many people had taken ill. And many succumbed in agony before receiving any treatment. The victims who didn't die lost their minds. Cultivators who'd encountered the Liao Kingdom Guoshi's nine-eyed Qin in battle conjectured the chimera was a demon released from one of the Qin's 9 eyes. Others said it must be a new demon beast the Liao Kingdom had refined, capable of whipping up poisonous storms and infecting everyone who touched the rainwater with demonic qi. As these sorts of stories proliferated, fear gripped the nation of Chonghua. The emperor's face settled permanently in a worried frown. In an unfortunate coincidence, neither Jiang Fuli nor Mengzi were in the capital. Jiang Fuli was still away on his travels, and Mengzi had recently been indisposed and was once again recovering in a hot spring outside the capital. There were other healers in the city, but this unprecedented malady had appeared with such swiftness that none were able to find a cure, despite working themselves to the bone. Henry, are we getting Shansha anti-maskers? You know, my one thought right now is they were kind of diverted from going and finding the reclusive, guy who's supposed to do the thing to find Gumong's souls. And I'm like, does he know? Why am I forgetting this? Like, was he like a healer or was he like something else? Is knowing how to find somebody's souls part of healing? Because maybe they actually need to go find him for real this time, and maybe he can help everybody else too? Gumong, too, had been affected by the downpour, but he fought to restrain himself and never lost control. The tensions between Chonghua and the Liao Kingdom rose until they reached a breaking point. Finally, the army the Liao Kingdom had amassed at the border began to march. The route they took was treacherous, the shortest and least orthodox path toward the imperial city. Faced with an approaching enemy army, the court buzzed with discussion. Some ministers argued they should rush to meet the Liao Kingdom and make the first move, while others asserted they should take the opportunity to strengthen the imperial city's defenses. There were even some who now lamented that the city had been built so close to the Liao Kingdom and suggested abandoning it and moving the capital. These officials were as useless as bags of straw. That terrifying rain had soaked through their soft insides, filling the air with the reek of spoiled silage? Silage? I don't know what that means. They argued with great conviction. If that monster appears again and infects all our cultivators, how will the battle be fought? Discretion is the better part of valor. As long as we preserve our lives, there's hope for the future. What if that chimera is the new demon blood beast they've refined? If we engage it now, what chance is there of success? We must first develop an antidote for this evil poison before we can meet the Liao Kingdom head on. Otherwise, we'll be spending the lives of our soldiers for nothing. Oh, thank you, Blue. Silage? Oh, like in a silo. Silage. Okay, that makes sense. The whole assembly talked at the same time, none listening to their fellows, as if countless heads had sprouted from one monstrous body and all started barking at and biting each other. The racket gave the Emperor a splitting headache, but indeed he had no method at his disposal to address the demonic Qi. He could only write letter after letter to Zhang Fuli, urging him to return from his travels post-haste. On the 8th day, after the rainfall, Medicine Master Jiang finally received word and raced back to the capital. After 3 days in seclusion, he at last created an antidote. That was quick. A report of victory came from Yonglan Pass the same day. Chonghua's troops had beaten back the Liao Kingdom's vanguard, and the Liao army had temporarily retreated north of the Huang River. The court was much relieved. To celebrate the victory, distribute the antidote, and discuss plans for meeting the next wave of attack, the Emperor summoned all the lords of the city to a feast in the throne room of the palace, where they were to receive supplies of the medicine and consider the most pressing matters of war. Moshi would have vastly preferred to skip this feast, being beyond disgusted with the Emperor. Mindful of the nation's state of unrest, beset by internal and external threats, he hadn't yet sought out his sovereign for a reckoning. Furthermore, Gumong had been in very poor health. After the massacre in Huntian Cave, their plans to seek the soul-summoning Grandmaster Cultivator in Lin-An had been indefinitely delayed. He worried over Gumong's condition, and didn't feel safe entrusting him to anyone else's care, especially with Mengzi away from the capital. Moshi had heard she'd fallen ill shortly after he and Gumong had departed themselves, and had no choice but to recuperate in the hot springs. But as Zhang Fuli would appear at the banquet and bring medicine that could stave off the effects of demonic qi, Moshi eventually elected to attend and bring Gumong along. The mask Gumong donned for the occasion was stifling. He pushed it up in the privacy of the carriage, exposing hazy blue eyes. Chin propped in one hand, he gazed out at the flickering lights beyond the bamboo curtain. His other hand fiddled with the little bamboo warrior Murong Chuyi had left behind for him. Gumong had 2 possessions that were most precious to him. This bamboo warrior, and that brocade pouch of unknown origin. Moshi had been wary of this brocade pouch since the first time he saw it at Luomei Pavilion, but Gumong had never revealed where he'd gotten it, whether he had his memories or not. When Moshi had pressed him, Gumong only piteously said, "I can't remember. I just know it's very important." Every time Moshi saw Gumong's chagrined expression, he found himself unable to say anything else. As time went on, he grew less willing to upset Gumong. He could only endure his own unease and avoid seeing that brocade pouch so he would stop pointlessly sulking. Eventually, Gumong noticed his moodiness and showed Moshi what was inside the little pouch. It was nothing precious, just a single perfectly white cowrie shell. Somebody had faintly inscribed the character for fire on its top, a peak like a leaping flame with a stroke on either side. Did a fire-type cultivator give it to you? Gumong shook his head. I really don't remember, he mumbled, pouting as he slipped the cowrie shell back into the pouch, then tucked it into his clothes. I just like it very much. I can't lose it. As for who had given it to Gumong to make him so fond of it, to make him fiddle with it constantly like the bamboo warrior from Murong Chuyi, that remained a mystery to this day. Oh, oh, Nina, your idea. What if his souls are in the stupid pouch? Oh, never mind. I feel you. That was... Oh. I don't know why I kept thinking, what if Moshi had actually given it to him, but through some sort of weird scenario in which he, like, doesn't actually remember it at all. But I don't know why and how that would be the case, because Moshi has a pretty good memory. So we have no reason to believe that he would, like, forget about that. But, like, like, at the same time, because isn't he a fire-type cultivator? You know, surprisingly. Even though he was the one who was supposed to be, like, water and all that jazz, and he has the whale. But he's, like, mainly fire-type. But, like, what if he, like... No, I don't know. He says it's a nice brocade pouch, so I feel like he'd remember it. When Moshi arrived, most of the noble families were already milling about in the throne room, yet it seemed stubbornly cold and cheerless. Moshi had attended many banquets in Chonghua, but rarely had he beheld a sight as miserable as this one. There was no need to speak of Yue Manor, as Yue Chunqing hadn't shown himself at all. Princess Mengze's seat was vacant, and as for Wangshu Manor, Moshi couldn't describe what he felt as he looked at Murong Lian's empty seat. After what he had learned in Lin An, he'd realized Murong Lian, too, was Gumong's elder brother. Their blood relationship even closer than that of Gumong and Murong Chuyi's. Wait. Oh, yeah. For a second, I was like, I blanked out and forgot that they use Goga to refer to uncles too, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not a brother situation with Murong Chuyi. My brain has been completely shorted out since the earlier events today. I can't speak, I can't think. Nothing is working. But Murong Lian was a different sort of creature from Murong Chuyi. He was like the ephemera he smoked, dispersing into mist on the wind. No one knew precisely what he was thinking. Murong Lian had tormented Gumong mercilessly since they were little, even going so far as to toss him into Lome Pavilion to be abused when Gumong had first returned to the city. Sometimes it seemed the more miserably he beat Gumong down, the lower Gumong's circumstances were, the more comfortable Murong Lian felt. Yet he couldn't accept it when Gumong was truly in danger, and would take any measure to save him. Nobles were whispering all around them. Hey, have you heard? It sounds like Wang Shujun's close to kicking the bucket. Really? Didn't His Imperial Majesty send Shenong Terrace's best cultivators to treat him? How is he still... He's been hanging by a thread this whole time. The Imperial Majesty's done all he can. Who will miss him apart from His Imperial Majesty? No one likes him. The red lacquered feast table, its sturdy legs engraved with decorative clouds, was entirely empty of people. It suddenly occurred to Moshi that, after Madame Zhao's death, Murong Lian had no one close to him. From the outside, he seemed to have many at his beck and call, but those who lingered around him were either servants who depended on him, or subordinates who feared him. Still, Moshi couldn't guess what Muronglian thought of Gumong. Henry, well, I like him. Have you ever thought about that? I know. The Emperor emerged from the back room with Zhang Fuli to mark the commencement of the feast. The medicine master's days of travel seemed to have worn him into something more austere. Perhaps because of the nation's grave predicament, he appeared less arrogant and capricious than usual, as he stood quietly by the Emperor. His green robes were long and loose, his wide sleeves trailing down. With his eyes lowered, he gave off a rare aura of steady reliability. We summoned all of you tonight, firstly to distribute our hard-won antidote, and secondly because we expect you to devise some plan for answering the enemy's attack, the Emperor announced from his rounded gilt redwood chair. As for the recommendations to retreat and avoid battle, the Emperor looked up, his eyes flashing. If anyone wishes to suggest it tonight, they may save their breath. The faction of old subjects who had been advocating for peace all shot silent, surreptitious looks at one another. All shot silent, surreptitious looks at one another. Their discreet glances did not escape the Emperor's notice. If you have something to say, let's have it, he sneered. Your earlier reason for suggesting retreat was that the demonic plague was hard to dispel. We found it reasonable then, but now that Medicine Master Zhang has developed an antidote, you still want to turn tail and run. Are you so craven? Your Imperial Majesty, one old noble replied falteringly. Liao first violated the armistice, then rashly used forbidden techniques, attempting to steal back the final wisp of their demon blood beast's soul. In fact, perhaps we should tamper with that fragment of demon blood beast's soul and then return it to them. They'd get what they wanted. They wouldn't need to threaten war. As for the demon blood beast, the Liao kingdom would struggle to restore it so soon if we ruin it. The conflict could be delayed another 8 or 10 years. The Emperor chuckled. What use is 8 or 10 years? Anything could happen in 8 or 10 years. Chonghua could somehow disrupt Liao's plans of reviving the demon blood beast, or study the spirit beast diagrams Preceptor Chen left behind, and create our own beast to fight it. In short, this old subject believes Chonghua is currently in a position of weakness, and unsuited to this foolhardy venture of war. I beg your Imperial Majesty to reconsider. The Emperor laughed loudly. You, Shujun, we think those 8 or 10 years you covet are not about giving Chonghua time to prepare, but rather for your elderliness to enjoy your retirement, right? At your age, you'll be gone in a decade. After you pass, why would you care what calamity awaits this nation? He had jabbed Yu Shujun right in the heart. The old noble paled, but still insisted. Your Imperial Majesty, as the heavens bear witness, this old subject's every word is loyal. The Emperor was still smiling, but his eyes held no hint of mirth. Take him away. Your Imperial Majesty. The smile disappeared. The man on the throne looked terribly cold, his entire body emanating an arctic iciness. We said, take him away. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. Distribute the portion of Medicine Master Zhang's antidote meant for Yushujun's manor to the others, the Emperor said indifferently. If anyone else would like to suggest retreat, then indeed, you may shed your armor and go back to the fields. But we won't be giving you any medicine in that case. We will only safeguard the lives of those willing to fight for Chonghua and its civilians. Those like Yu Shujun, who are content to hide in a corner and farm the land. His eyes glinted with a sinister chill, his teeth clicking lightly as he spoke. Prepare to be left to your own devices. The medicine that could ensure one's safety by dispelling demonic chi was quite literally in the Emperor's hands. Those blathering nobles all shut their mouths with a snap. Oh, Nina. You just remembered, yeah. That's the really unfortunate thing. I mean, among all the other unfortunate things. The Emperor's vulture-like eyes raked over the hall. He let out a laugh. If you were always like this, falling in line so obediently, there'd be hope yet that Chonghua could conquer the 9 provinces and bring peace to the world. Moshi felt a surge of loathing upon hearing this. The Emperor always brought things back to the contentment of the people and the health and safety of the commoners. And while Moshi had long since known that the heart of the ruler was hardest to read, that it would be impossible for everything His Imperial Majesty said to be true, he'd never anticipated this level of falsehood. The Emperor didn't merely intend to understand black magic. He lusted after it. The techniques Gumong had endured such suffering to bring back were treasures the Emperor had long been drooling over. All his talk of a world at peace was a lie. It was merely a slogan, a flag he waved to motivate heroes and loyal subjects. This man's true intent was to conquer the 9 provinces. No one else suggested retreat. The Emperor instructed Zhang Fuli to distribute the demon-dispelling medicine from its brocade box to each of the masters of the noble residences. Gumong sat next to Moshi as they waited, his blue eyes quietly tracking Zhang Fuli as he walked back and forth. "Why do you keep looking at him?" "What's he giving out?" asked Gumong. "Looks like everyone wants it." "It's medicine," replied Moshi. "Isn't medicine bitter?" Gumong frowned. "Why are they all eager to eat it? Will we have some too?" Moshi patted him on the head. "I'll get you something sweet." At Gumong's happy nod, Moshi sighed inwardly and turned to glance after Zhang Fuli, distributing medicine at the other side of the hall. He planned to wait until the feast ended to catch Medicine Master Zhang alone. Perhaps he, of all people, could think of some way to address Gumong's condition. Zhang Fuli was speaking to Chang Fengjun. Little Lanar had remained unconscious after Huntian Cave. Zhang Yishui had taken her core and turned her into a puppet. Her tiny body had endured too much. Chang Fengjun was weighed down with regret and exhausted from worrying over his daughter's health the past few days. He pulled on Zhang Fuli's sleeve and spoke to him intently, but Zhang Fuli remained indifferent. His replies amounted to a small handful of words. Finally, he yanked his sleeve back and turned away. As Chang Fengjun pleaded, he'd accidentally dropped the small demon-dispelling pill he'd been given on the ground. Broken-hearted at being so coldly rebuffed, he cared nothing for his own life or death, and paid no mind to where the pill had rolled. Zhang Fuli shot Chang Fengjun a glance, but wasted no more breath on him. He collected the dropped medicine with his long fingers and set it back on the bamboo table before turning on his heel to visit the next table. But Moshi, who had watched the entire exchange, vaguely felt that something was off. A chill was crawling up his spine. He stared at Zhang Fuli. He couldn't see anything out of the ordinary, yet he had a feeling that whatever was amiss was right before his eyes. That it was a major, obvious thing. He simply couldn't put his finger on it. There was something about Zhang Fuli, something extremely wrong. What was it? As his brows knit in thought, he heard a chilly voice drifting into the throne room from beyond the doors. "Everyone, put down the medicine in your hands. Don't take it." The astonished crowd of nobles turned in its direction. Outside the door, a man in lavish sapphire robes slowly ascended the steps. His features were vulpine, his complexion pale and sickly. Although he looked horribly frail, he was back on his feet, and his mind was clear. "Aya, Wang Shujun," someone exclaimed in alarm. And so it was. The man who sauntered slowly into the hall was none other than Murong Lian, rumored to be hanging on to life by a thread after a grave injury. That's the end of the chapter. So there's some. I was wondering if there was something in the medicine. I know, Henry, he sauntered in even though he's like gravely ill. I love that for him. I really was like, you know, how, like, yeah, the whole Zhang Fuli being conveniently away and then coming back. Someone has control over him, and the medicine is not, is gonna mess people up worse. Yeah. Okay, this was a doozy of a reading, to say the least. I was not expecting Murong Chuyi to be gone from this world, apparently. But we're very mad at Meat Bun, and I'm very mad at Meat Bun for, like, if you, see, here's the thing, if you know who is who on this cover, it tells a very clear story. Like, look at this. Yue Chunqing is, like, sad and uncertain. Murong Chuyi in the middle has his eyes closed, like he's passed out or maybe not alive. And then, Zhang Yeshue is kind of looking dark and, like, kind of sinister. And I'm just like, how did she do that to us? Why did she do that to us? So, yeah. I will, see y'all tomorrow for some more Meat Bun for Brittany's stream. And, I will see y'all again for more of this on Wednesday. I love how much we're rooting for Murong Lian now. I'm rooting for him super hard. Yeah, Blue, the cover is like, is it spoilery? Yes. But as a first timer, I mean, initially I didn't even know how to tell who was who. So it kind of is like, it's so out of context. You look at it and you're just like, man, I don't know. Which props to the cover artist for, like, being able to do that. So yeah, I will, well, I'll see y'all in chat tomorrow. Try to have a good rest of your day, I guess. Goodbye.